CELPIP task response in writing is where a lot of people lose marks. This could be something from 2 to 3 marks you lose the writing because you didn't pay attention. I'm going to tell you why this mistake happens, what is the most common error here. Then we're going to talk about the best structure you can use to avoid task response problems. The most common thing I see when we're checking writings for students is their first half of the writing is going really well, second half does not go well. In the second half, they start drifting away from their topic. The reason is, well, there are multiple reasons. You're looking at the time in the exam, you're looking at your word limit, grammar, all those things. And you're thinking constantly about different things at that point, your vocabulary, grammar, and those things, which you need to look at, so nothing wrong there. But the problem is doing all of this makes you distracted from what the question was. When you started introduction, paragraph A, you were answering the question to the point. Now you don't know what the question is because you're too busy writing and you drift off the topic. This always happens in the second half. It's obvious we're not thinking here, we forgot what the question was. A very easy way to fix this, and I've always said this before in my videos, is spend 2 to 3 minutes with every question making a skeleton, making an outline. So when you see the question, you write it down on a piece of paper or in front of you on your computer. Just delete it later before submission. 2 points for body 1, 2 points for body 2, or if it's letter, the 1 point per body, which we'll talk about in a second. Basically, the points you need for each body should be written at the start. I do this up to now, even though I've written thousands of essays and letters or emails, if you want to call it that, for CELPIP. I still do that because we're all human beings. We forget the question asked. This happens in all the exams. It happens in IELTS as well. So to make sure you don't drift off from the actual question, make sure you make the outline. It happens so much, like, trust me, you might think it won't happen to you, but it does happen because you might interpret the question differently. It's a human thing. I don't know why it happens, but the best way to avoid it is to make a skeleton, make an outline. Okay, now the second thing is asking yourself why and how. Now this is where the task response deems or demands details. When students go and talk about a topic, for example, you're talking about task 2 and you're talking about why a nuclear power plant should not be built in your vicinity. Now, here, the obvious thing to say is, well, it shouldn't be built because there would be toxic fumes, it's bad for the environment, pollution, radiation, all those things. So you're explaining to me how it's going to be bad, and that's why we shouldn't build it. Okay, so how? You explain the whole process. It's all pollutants and everything. Very good. You can tell me why. Why shouldn't we build a nuclear power plant? Because it'll take a lot of money. For this amount of money, we could probably build 10 solar powered stations, or we could invest that into some other place where right now we don't need energy right away. Or why? Because there would be a need of engineers, and in our small town we don't have them, and so on. So you're answering the question with why and how, and if you're doing that, that's awesome. That's exactly what you need to do. Unfortunately, most people don't do that. Most people forget the rules of why and how, and what they do is they answer something very general, okay, or very specific. So let's talk about both. Something very general would be nuclear plants should not be built because they don't have a good reputation. They are bad for us, and that's why we shouldn't build them. This is so general, okay? It's not really explaining why and how it's bad. It is maybe answering the question, but it will not give you marks for task response because the why and how are not answered. It's not specific, it's not to the point. Now, if you say multiple points, maybe you are saying why and how, but you're explaining it in this way. You're saying it should not be built because of radiation. It's also going to show a bad image because we're not using renewable, renewable source of energy. We're also going to need a lot of investment and so on. So now you have 3 or maybe 4 points. None of them are explained. So you are giving us one sentence on each point, but it's not detailed why and how. It's not with examples. Every point you explain, remember this, every point you explain in task 1 and task 2 writing in CELPIP should have at least 2 sentences that explain that point, or a long complex sentence that explains that one point. You should not just do 1 point per sentence and then move to the next sentence, because then you haven't given enough time to your point. All right. So doing this will ensure you have given quality points, not quantity, because quality points matter more. When you are doing quality points like long sentences, you are giving the examiner a range of vocabulary and phrases and connectors with punctuation, so that all counts to your marks. Okay, so now we have discussed why and how. We have discussed when people are too general. Let's talk about when people are too specific. Specific would be something where you quote something. Nuclear power plant should not be built because in Hiroshima, in Nagasaki, and the Ukraine thing, whatever happened, and this is what resulted. Or you say in 2013, a study published showed that. Avoid all those things. Doing this again prevents you from giving the examiner a range of vocabulary, sentences that you would have given them if you explained it in your own words using the why and how. If I have to explain the theory, look, this is the reason you shouldn't do it, it leads to this and this. So there are 2 to 3 components of the sentence. It expands the explanation. But if you just say, this university published this study in this year, it's like you're copy pasting something you have read, or you're just reporting it in a news article format, not an essay format or a letter format that is needed in task 1 or 2. So don't be too specific, don't be too general, be in the middle, and explain the why and how after making an outline. All right, so these are important things. Now let's talk about how many points you do need in each type of question. Task 1, which is a letter or email, whatever you want to call it, is with usually 3 bullet points. For each bullet point, you just need to make 1 body paragraph. So 3 bullet points means 3 body paragraphs. In each body, you should have 2 points per bullet, okay? The reason we want to do this is the examiner might say, you have not explained enough. If you have just done 1 point per bullet, maybe it's not enough information. They say this all the time. So if, for example, the question is, give the date and time. So one sentence would be on the date and why you're giving that date. The other sentence would be on the time. And that's 2 sentences, that's easy. This question gave you the hint, do 2 points. But if the question is, like you're moving to an apartment and the bullet point says, tell the person when you will be moving, you just say 1 line. You say, I'll be moving on the 20th of September. That's it. You can imagine this is not enough, right? So you need now another sentence or 2 to explain why you're choosing that date. So mention that I'm gonna move on this date because of this, and another sentence as well. So 2 points on this. The other sentence could be something like, if this date is not available, we can do this date or this time. So you're giving an alternative with that same point, or you can explain further on the point. That could be a second reason why you prefer moving on that date. It could also be a question like, is it okay if I move on that date if there's not too much inconvenience? I know it's at the end of the month, but is that okay? So giving 2 points per question will ensure you are not speaking or writing lesser than what's required. And when you come to task 2, do 2 points per body. All right, you need 2 bodies. If you have seen our structures and templates, you already know this. You need 2 bodies in task 2. Each body will have 2 points. It's preferable you talk about one side only. So you talk about your opinion in body 1, and you say the negative stuff about the other side in body 2. Okay? So you want to keep these things in mind. Once again, our most advanced and complex versions of templates which explain all these structures, all these details with the right words, vocab, and the advanced stuff, mistake-proof stuff, and copy-paste templates can be found in our course. Link is in the description. That is the best resource you can use for CELPIP. The course is currently on a huge discount. You will see that offer as soon as you go on the website. So check that out and make sure to keep all these points in your brain when you do the exam to avoid task response issues. It is the most misunderstood marking criteria. But I hope these tips help you. If they do, please like, share, and subscribe. And we'll talk very soon. Take care.